Hello, friends, and welcome to Sleep Tight Stories. If you are enjoying the podcast and would like to show your support, then we would love for you to check out Sleep Tight Premium. Not only would your support help us to continue producing the show, but our ad-free premium feed is all about supporting your sleep time routine. From now until Christmas, we are offering 40% off our Sleep Tight Premium subscriptions for the first year. Check out sleeptightpremium.com or follow the link in our show notes. Thank you. This story was written thanks to ideas from our listeners, Josie, who is 8, and Laura, and all those on Apple Podcast reviews that made suggestions that made it into this story. Thank you. This story is about a little girl named Lucy who loves to play Minecraft. Lucy's mom tells her it is time to get ready for bed, but Lucy is busy playing Minecraft and doesn't want to stop. Lucy puts down the game and gets ready for bed, but just can't stop thinking about the game. Will her chickens be okay? She decides to have one more quick look, just to make sure. Lucy and the Unicorn. Lucy had just planted another garden outside her beautiful house made of brick when her mother called from the kitchen to tell her it was time to start bedtime. "But Mom, I just planted my garden and I haven't fed my cows or chickens, and I really need to have more chicks." Her mom entered the living room and said, "Your garden and animals can wait until tomorrow." "But Mom," Lucy replied. "Put down the iPad and let's go brush your teeth," her mom said. Lucy loved bedtime. The stories and tickles, but sometimes she just felt like playing Minecraft forever. In Minecraft, she could create her own world, go on adventures, and most importantly, she could raise and care for animals. Lucy loved animals, especially sheep, cows, chickens, pigs, cats, donkeys, rabbits, and dogs. She didn't like creepers much, though. They ruined everything. Whenever she played Minecraft, it seemed like she was the one playing. She even dressed her character just as she dressed, at least when her mom allowed her to wear what she wanted to wear. After Lucy brushed her teeth, her mom tucked her into bed, read her a book, and as she left, asked Alexa to play her a story from one of her favorite podcasts. But Lucy just couldn't stop thinking about her animals. Would the chickens be okay without her? She decided to look just one more time to make sure they were all okay. Lucy got out of bed to the sounds of her dog barking and panting. Lulu was always by her side and followed her everywhere. Lucy fed him a bone. He gave her hearts. Her iron golem was in her room carefully watching over her. She liked to have iron golems around because they protected her, and they were sometimes so silly. They made Lucy laugh when they spun around on top of her treasure chest. Daylight meant it was time to check on her animals and crops. Lucy raced out her wooden door into the garden that was at the front of her house. She had just planted carrots and wanted to fertilize them with bone meal. With the carrots, she could feed the rabbits. She loved having rabbits hop around the farm she was creating, all around her house. She checked her wheat, potatoes, beetroot, and pumpkin, and all were growing so nicely. Next, she quickly ran to the back of the house to check on her pigs, cows, and sheep that she kept in pens. The baby pigs were so cute. Though she created fences around her growing farm, she still had to listen carefully that there were no creepers lurking around. You never could tell where they might spawn, and they were always so cranky. She fed her pigs some potatoes, which they loved, and her sheep some wheat. Sheep were great because you didn't actually have to feed them anything, but they loved wheat. She just had a little wheat left to feed her cows, and they would have to wait until she harvested more. Lastly, her chickens. She put her lovely chickens in a pen on the other side of her house so they wouldn't disturb the other animals. She surrounded their pen with flowers and trees to make it look more beautiful. Lucy fed them some seeds which they loved very much. Lucy's work was done. All her gardens and animals were growing, fed, and safe. It was time to go to sleep. But maybe first there was time for a short adventure. It had been so long since she explored the outer edges of her world, especially towards the coast where there was a village and a bunch of grumpy villagers. If she made it to the coast before nightfall, she might just have enough time to look for a sunken ship where she could find all kinds of treasure. She always needed treasure. So she told Lulu to stay, and off she went. She first took a path she made that went through the forest near her house. She made this because it helped her not get lost and allowed her to run a little bit faster. As she ran through the forest, she said hello to a couple parrots, heard the moan of a zombie in the darker part, which made her run a little faster, and saw a wolf running in the distance. She said hello to a panda and wanted to say hello to an ocelot, but each time she tried to get close, it zoomed away. Next time she came this way, she would have to remember to bring some salmon. Ocelots loved fish. She kept running past the end of her path, through a meadow full of flowers, over a hill, until she came to the bridge that went across the ravine. She wasn't sure who made it, maybe the villagers, though they lived far over the next hill. As she crossed the bridge, she saw something bright in the distance. She had never seen this kind of light before. Though it was daytime, you could still see it. It shined so brightly with all colors of the rainbow. It wasn't in the direction that she thought she would be going, but it was so beautiful, and she was so curious. What could it be? Should she go to investigate? Well, this was supposed to be an adventure, she thought, and it wasn't that far, so she should make it to where the light is and still have time to get back before nightfall. So off she ran. She ran along the edge of the ravine for as long as she could, until the trees became too thick and the edge too high. The light was still up ahead to the left, so she started through the trees in its general direction. It was really slow going in the forest, as she had to clear her way as she went, and the ground was not very level. But she kept going, persevered with her efforts, and came up to a clearing where she thought the light should have been. Except the light wasn't there. Surely she went in the correct direction, she thought. Where could it have gone? It was getting dark soon, and she didn't want to run through the forest at night. Just as she thought about going back to her house, she saw the light again. It was just up ahead. Could she make it in time, she wondered? She was determined to try. So she ran towards the light again. But each time she thought she should almost be where the light was, it was still a little ways off in the distance. And then she realized that it must be moving. This time she changed course to where she thought the light might be heading, instead of where it was this very moment. It worked. After only a short period, running over hills, tall grass and trees, past sheep and slow-moving cows, she came upon a shallow, with a small house, and beside it, the source of the bright light. At this distance, it looked like a horse, but its color was all the colors of a rainbow. As she moved closer, she saw something else amazing. It had a horn. A single horn on its head. Could this really be what it looks like? A unicorn? She covered the final distance across the grass in a flash. "Hello, are you really a unicorn?" Lucy asked, not expecting a response because none of the animals ever talked. They just made noises. And she was pretty sure it must have been a unicorn, though she had never seen one before, except the toy her mom gave her she called Princess Celestia. "Why, yes, I am a unicorn," it said. "You talked!" Lucy exclaimed. "No animal has ever talked to me before, even though I am constantly talking to them almost every day," she said. "My name is Lucy, by the way, and I have a big farm across the ravine." "Hello, Lucy. It's very nice to meet you," the unicorn said. "I've been following you for oh so long, but I guess you kept moving, and it was so hard to catch up to you," Lucy said, almost out of breath. "I'm so sorry about that. I like to keep moving, and seeing as the sun was setting, I wanted to make my way to this small house." "The creepers seem unusually attracted to me, and they are so cranky sometimes that running into them ruins my otherwise happy mood," the unicorn added. "Wow, I have so many questions, like, what do you eat? Are you the only unicorn? Why do you have so many colors? Can I be your friend?" Lucy said all in one big breath. Just then, the sun set, and the sounds of zombies could be heard in the distance. "I would love to answer your questions, Lucy, but I suggest we go inside the house before we are interrupted by the crankies," the unicorn replied. Lucy and the unicorn went in the house and closed the door. Just as the hissing sound could be heard, they made it just in time. The interior of the house was very simple. There were some paintings on the wall, a single chest, a crafting table, and a bed. With both Lucy and the unicorn in the house, it was very crowded. Lucy, I would love to answer all your questions, and I would love to be your friend. I also have so much to ask you about your farm and the animals, and if you have any apples or cake or cookies. But first, why don't you go to bed and sleep? Then when you wake up, it will be daylight, and we can talk outside as we head toward your farm, said the unicorn. That is, if you don't mind showing me where you live, Unicorn added. That's a great idea, and yes, I would be so happy to show you my house and farm, she replied. Lucy climbed in bed and asked, Would you mind telling me a story? I always listen to stories before I go to sleep. It helps me relax and have nice dreams. I would be happy to, the unicorn said. I'll share with you one of the stories my mother used to tell me when I was just a little foal. The moonlight fades from flower and tree, and the stars dim one by one. The tale is told, the song is sung, and the fairy feast is done. The night wind rocks the sleeping flowers and sings to them soft and low. The early birds ere long will wake. 'Tis time for the elves to go. And before the unicorn could finish the story, Lucy was fast asleep. Lucy woke with Princess Celestia cuddled against her and the sound of her mother calling her to come down and have breakfast. As she walked down the stairs, rubbing her eyes, she called out to her mother, "Mom, I was on the most interesting adventure and met a new friend." "Really?" her mom said. "I can't wait to hear all about it." And that's the end of our story. Good night. Sleep tight.